This morning, millions of Americans in the Pacific Northwest are bracing for a lingering heat wave.
That's a record high temperature that you'll be hitting during the day.
Those rising temperatures also turning deadly.
An even hotter summer as we move forward. Not good news.
That's right. Heat waves are sweeping across the U.S. and abroad. Records are being broken, wildfires are erupting, and people are struggling to find relief. Today, we'll talk about how climate change is contributing to this, books that we can all read to understand the issue better, and actions that we can take to save the spinning rock we call Earth. Let's get into it. Let's start with some facts. There are a number of contributing factors to heat waves like Arctic warming and jet stream migrations, heat domes, El Nino and La Nina, but the one that I want to chat about today is everyone's favorite first date topic: climate change. Global warming has created a hotter baseline for summer temperatures, and that dramatically increases the likelihood of more frequent, more extreme, and longer lasting heat waves. And study after study after study has clearly shown us this. Heat waves that used to be rare are now common, and those that used to be impossible are now happening and killing people. In London, temperatures reached 104 degrees Fahrenheit or 40 degrees Celsius for the first time, like ever. Oh, and there's now a surge in fires. Here in the US, 110 million people in more than half of the states are under heat warnings and advisories. And it's not just us, we're also seeing that global warming will make record-breaking temps more frequent in India and Pakistan. And while all of this is happening, flooding is on the rise, monarch butterflies are now being declared endangered, and the Great Salt Lake, the Rio Grande, and the Colorado River are all rapidly running dry. So what should we be reading? Let's talk about books. I did a bunch of research to find selections here, but we'll do this in 3 parts. A book for people who want to understand the history, a book for those who may need to talk to a friend or family member that's a climate denier, and a book that covers more hard truths like those we've already discussed. For those that want to understand the history, there's Losing Earth, A Recent History by Nathaniel Rich. In the New York Times Magazine, he published a 30,000-word account of the years between 1979 and 89, which is the decade where humanity missed its chance to fix climate change. The response was overwhelming, so he turned that piece into this book. It outlines the rise of political awareness around the dangers of global warming, as well as early attempts to create legislation to fix the problem. That's in addition to revealing the birth of climate denialism and the origins of the fossil fuel industry's coordinated effort to curb climate policy through misinformation propaganda and political influence. One quote that I found from the book that I thought was staggering was, "More carbon has been released into the atmosphere since November 1989 than the entire history of civilization preceding it." In 1979, we knew nearly everything that we know today about climate change, including how to stop it. This book is important because it helps us to truly understand how issues that have an impact on everyone can so quickly become politicized, and how inaction, power, and greed has led us to this standstill. If you find that you have a friend or family member or someone else that's close to you that's a climate denier, then Don't Even Think About It by George Marshall might be a good choice for you. The book consists of very short chapters, and Marshall delves into the psychological reasons why people don't believe in climate change, as well as why the current strategies to convince them are not working. He interviews a wide range of participants, from scientists to skeptics, to paint a holistic picture of this debate. The book's central question is whether our brains are wired to ignore climate change. And to answer that, he discusses cognitive biases like the bystander effect. This is a theory in social psychology that says that you're less likely to help a victim in need if there are other people around. From my understanding, this book is looking to appeal to readers on a personal and emotional level through a relaxed and conversational style, rather than inundating them with citations from professionals. The last book won't sugarcoat anything, and it sounds like it's not for the faint of heart. It's The Sixth Extinction by Elizabeth Kolbert. The book argues that Earth is in the midst of a modern, man-made sixth extinction, which threatens to eliminate 20 to 50% of species on Earth within this century. From the Andes to the Amazon rainforest to the Great Barrier Reef and her own backyard, Kolbert outlines the impact of climate change on the life of our planet. She digs deep and offers an intellectual history of extinction and how life on Earth ended and was regenerated in the distant past. Alright, if you got any value from that, drop this video a thumbs up. In an effort to not end on a completely depressing note, let's talk about some actions that you and I can take to make meaningful contributions towards the fight against the climate crisis. Again, this will be in 3 parts: the food fight, the political fight, and the money fight. Food waste in the US occurs mostly in grocery stores and at home, either because it spoils on the store shelves or in our homes before we can eat it. According to an NRDC study, Americans throw away up to 40% of the food that we buy. We can combat food waste by only shopping for what we need, eating our leftovers, composting scraps, and donating excess to food banks. You can find a local food bank at feedingamerica.org. I'll be sure to leave a link to that down in the description as well. Experts estimate that curbing food waste could avoid 88 gigatons of CO2, which is a bigger impact than restoring over 400 million acres of tropical rainforest. Speaking of green things, eating more plant-based meals can lead your body and the planet to thanking you. Today, around 60% of the world's agricultural land is used for livestock grazing, and people in many countries are consuming more animal-sourced food than what's considered healthy. Moving on to politics, something you can do is keep your local politicians accountable. Protecting the environment is a big job, and that is exactly why we voted for them. You can do things like meet with a politician, you can write or call them, or if that feels like too heavy of a lift, even mentioning them on Twitter should help you get your point across. Decide where it is that you want to focus your efforts. This could be promoting clean energy policies, opposing new fossil fuel projects, or protecting large natural areas that capture and store carbon pollution. Remember that your vote is one of the most powerful tools that you have. You can find candidates and elected officials in your country who've agreed to say no to fossil fuel campaign funding or are in favor of climate policy solutions. I'll leave links in the description for politicians in the US and the UK for you. When it comes to money, one way that you can make an impact is by divesting. Whenever you add money to your bank account, it doesn't just sit there. Your bank lends that money to industries and projects with the intent of making a profit. Pulling your money out of institutions that fund fossil fuel expansion could eventually dry up funding to those projects. The largest source of greenhouse gas emissions comes from fossil fuels, and last year alone, Citigroup, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, and Goldman Sachs spent a combined $137 billion on fossil fuel projects. Last in this category is fashion. The fashion industry accounts for 8 to 10% of global carbon emissions, which is more than all international flights and maritime shipping combined. Fast fashion, think brands like Zara, H&M, and Fashion Nova, has created a throwaway culture that leads clothes quickly filling up in landfills. We can change this by buying fewer new clothes and wearing them longer, seeking out sustainable labels, or using rental services for special occasions instead of buying something new that we'll only wear once. There's so much more that I couldn't fit into this video, so I'll be sure to drop a ton of resources down in the description box for you to check out. By this point, you might be saying, why go green at all? I'm just one person. Can I actually make a difference? Well, no, not alone anyway. I'd say for one, it's the right thing to do, but it's also how we learn the values that we have to apply on a much larger scale to tackle the climate crisis. Your behaviors have an impact on the people in your life, and your actions might inspire someone else to do the same, which creates a social multiplier effect. It's good for you, it's good for those around you, and it might just help us save this beautiful planet.